There's a moment that doesn't quite hurt, but doesn't feel right either. A pause in the middle of a conversation. Someone looks at you a little too long, then looks away. It leaves a faint pressure behind the eyes. Not sadness, not confusion, just a quiet sense of being slightly off-center. You notice it later when the room has changed but you haven't moved, when laughter is happening near you, not with you, when a comment lands and everyone nods and then the moment passes like you were never there. It's subtle, easy to dismiss, but it stays. There's a strange rhythm to it, being pulled toward, then gently skipped over. People talk to you differently. They tell you things without deciding to. Their voice lowers, their shoulders drop. They feel lighter after you feel fuller, not in a good way, but that's not the part most people notice. What stands out is the contradiction. The way attention finds you then slides past you. The way you can feel deeply involved, yet oddly unacknowledged. It creates a quiet confusion. Am I present here or just useful? There's something unsettling about being relied on without being remembered, about being trusted without being chosen. It doesn't arrive as a single experience. It accumulates in glances, in half-finished sentences, in the way people say your name when they need steadiness, but forget it when they don't. You start to notice how often you are the pause between other people's emotions, the space where things settle, the place where tension goes to soften. It sounds gentle, but it has weight. There are days when you leave interactions more tired than before, not drained in a dramatic way, just slightly dimmer, as if a few lights were left on too long. You replay conversations later, not because something went wrong, but because something went missing. You were there, you felt it. But no one seemed to notice you holding it. That's where it starts to change. Not outwardly. Internally, you become careful, not guarded, just precise. You choose words that won't ripple too far. You listen for what's under what's said. You sense when a room is full before anyone speaks. It's not something you announce. It's something you carry, and people respond to that. They lean in, they relax, they feel seen, but there's something quieter happening underneath. As they settle, you fade. Not completely, just enough to be missed. It's like standing behind glass. Clear enough to be noticed, solid enough to be useful, invisible enough to be overlooked. You notice it in group settings first, how your presence changes the temperature, but not the focus. How your words land softly, then disappear into the room. You don't interrupt. You don't push. You don't insist. So the moment keeps moving. Later, someone thanks you for listening, for understanding. They don't quite know what for. They just feel better, and that should be enough, but it isn't always. There's a quiet grief in being essential and unseen at the same time. A loneliness that doesn't come from isolation, but from constant proximity without recognition. You might wonder if you're imagining it, if you're asking for too much, if this is just how connection works. But the feeling doesn't leave. It waits in the body, in the breath that doesn't fully drop. There's a particular moment when it becomes clear. Someone says, I don't know what I'd do without you, and then makes a choice that doesn't include you at all. The words and the actions don't touch. You don't confront it. You don't explain it. You feel it. Quietly. There's a temptation to disappear further, to become even softer, even more accommodating. Maybe then the balance will return, but that's not the part most people notice. What's actually happening isn't about generosity or patience or depth. It's about position. You occupy a strange place in emotional space, close enough to feel everything, far enough to not be counted as part of it. This is where the understanding begins to surface, not as a solution, just as a recognition. You've been taught, without anyone saying it, to be the place where feelings land, the steady surface, the quiet witness. People feel safe around you because you don't demand space. You offer it. And over time, that offering becomes your shape. You are experienced as an atmosphere, not a person, a tone, not a voice. That's why you feel both seen and invisible. Seen because others sense themselves more clearly in your presence. Invisible because the attention is always moving through you, not toward you. This isn't something you decided. It formed slowly from moments where you learned that being attuned kept things calm, that noticing prevented rupture, that holding made things smoother. So you kept holding and people came to rely on that steadiness without realizing where it came from. There's nothing wrong with them for that. And there's nothing wrong with you. It's just a pattern that doesn't announce itself. You become a mirror that doesn't reflect back, a container that doesn't ask to be filled. Over time, your own edges soften, not disappear, just blur. You feel present everywhere and located nowhere. That's the quiet cost. It explains the fatigue that doesn't match your day, the loneliness that doesn't match your social life, the sense of being deeply involved yet strangely untouched. You aren't overlooked because you lack presence. You're overlooked because your presence makes others forget themselves less. They come into focus. You recede. This awareness doesn't fix anything. It doesn't change how people behave overnight, but it shifts something inside. It names the weight without turning it into blame. It lets the confusion rest. You can feel the difference between being needed and being known, between being close and being met. And maybe slowly you start to notice when you're stepping back before anyone asks you to, when you're creating space out of habit, not choice. There's no urgency in this. Noticing, no demand to act, just a quiet clarity, the kind that lets you stay a little more solid in your own outline, not louder, not harder, just here. The room still responds to you, people still soften, conversations still open. But now there's a sense of where you end, and that makes all the difference, not because everything changes, but because you are no longer disappearing without realizing it. The feeling of being seen and invisible doesn't vanish. It becomes understandable. And understanding has a way of easing the strain. The pace slows. The pressure lifts slightly. You're still attentive, still quiet, still deep, but now there's a subtle weight in your own presence, something that doesn't move out of the way. And in that stillness, something settles. Not resolution, just recognition, enough to breathe a little more fully, enough to remain.